Who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Do you love Star Wars? Do you like Star Wars? Does it come on your TV randomly when you're flipping through channels and you enjoy it? The visuals? Well, if you said yes to any of those, then this is the place you want to be. This is the podcast you want to continue to listen to. For first-time viewers and for folks that have listened to this podcast in the past, it's more than just about giving you the latest updates and news on the Star Wars universe. I try to separate myself a little bit here and there and give you a little more in depth to this culture. For example, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the balance of the Force and what it truly means. But of course, I'm also going to give you the news as well, because I want you to be caught up, and I want you, the listener, to be up to date and as knowledgeable as you can be, because let's face it, that's why you're listening to this podcast. Now, this discussion is from my point of view on the balance of the Force and what I believe it means and how I think it's represented in movies and the books and the comics and whatever. So take it with a grain of salt, but I think this will answer a lot of questions about where the story has been going in the episodes and what we can expect. So, get a comfortable seat, ladies and gentlemen, because this is going to be a great episode, a quick episode. Balance of the Force. What does balance mean in the Star Wars universe? Now, like I said, all of this is from my point of view. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. Just lend me an ear and take it with a grain of salt, because I think this might shed some light. So the idea of balance of the Force is a central tenet of the Jedi Order. Remember that. This was started by the Jedi Order, and it refers to the ideal state in which the Force exists in nature. And the Jedi identify this as the light side, quotations. The presence of dark side corrupts and destroys this natural balance, aka the light. It shadows the light. And the Jedi view it as their duty to restore it when it becomes dark. So basically, what I take from this idea is that the Jedi do not use the Force. It's ideal for no one to use the Force. Jedi are Force users, but they do not use the Force unless the natural order of things is being shattered by the dark side. That's when they use the Force to balance it out. So essentially, balance to the Jedi, since they created that terminology, is the light side. And the light side is all that is good in the universe. So before I go any further, I'm going to go through each trilogy of movies here and talk about how the balance has been in and out of play. Before I do, I want to discuss the prophecies of the Force that were written in the book Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. Now, this is not a book review. It is a really good read, and there's plenty to talk about, but I'm specifically focusing on the prophecies. So I'm just going to read them 1 through 6 in order, and then we're going to break them down through the movies. Prophecy 1. She who will be born to darkness will give birth to darkness. Prophecy 2. When the Kyber that is not Kyber shines forth, the time of prophecy will be at hand. Prophecy 3. When the righteous lose the light, evil once dead shall return. Prophecy 4. One will ascend to the highest of the Jedi despite the foreboding of those who would serve with him. Prophecy 5. Only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. Prophecy 6. He who learns to conquer death will, through his greatest student, live again. Okay. So let's start all the way back from the Phantom Menace. Okay? The Jedi believed that the Chosen One would destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force forever. Now, during the Phantom Menace, they believed the Sith had been dead for 1,000 years or something like that. Right? So the prophecy really doesn't apply at the time until they run into Darth Vader. So it's the timeline's a little skewed here because, when they first find Anakin, they're like, we believe this is the Chosen One, and the Jedi are just like that he'll bring balance to the Force. Yet, they don't know that there's any Sith around at this time, so it's a little interesting, it's a little weird. And then they hear about the Sith, and then they go back to the boy, and then they don't want to train him. So, Phantom Menace has its problems, but we're just going to pretend like it makes sense for the sake of what I'm about to talk about. George Lucas solely relied on the fact that Anakin Skywalker was, quote, chosen one. The prophesized chosen one. So, if Anakin is a chosen one and he's going to destroy the dark side, destroy the Sith, and bring balance to the Force, let's take him through his journey. Anakin becomes Vader. Okay, becomes the Sith, becomes the dark side. But then he gets turned by his son, and then he kills the Emperor, therefore destroying the Sith. And now he's part of the light. And the light being all that is good all around the world, now balance is restored. And then no one has to use the Force anymore. So this leads us straight into Prophecy 2, as far as the timeline goes. We're still in the Phantom Menace era. So Prophecy 2 states, when the Kyber that is not Kyber shines forth, the time of prophecy will be at hand. Now, for those of you that don't know what Kyber crystal is, it's what gives a lightsaber its power. It's also what gave the Death Star its power. It's a natural power source. It's a stone, a crystal found in caves. You have to really dig for them, search for them. They're just part of the natural world. It's like our gold. It's very valuable, but this one possesses powers that one can harness through training. It's a way just to connect to the Force. So when the Kyber that is not Kyber shines forth, the time of the prophecy will be at hand. Now, this prophecy was fulfilled in the book Master and Apprentice. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon come across a type of crystal that's very similar to Kyber in some structure, but it's not actually Kyber. And in the book's climax, Obi-Wan's crystal is switched for one that is one of the fake Kyber crystals. And unexpectedly, it's still capable of creating a lightsaber blade. It's just a little bit weaker than a natural one. But what else Prophecy 2 states is that when this happens, the time of prophecy will be at hand. So it means it leads to another prophecy. So that's all I'm going to give you from the book. That's all you need to take away from it. All you need to know is that when a Kyber that's not Kyber shines forth, it'll lead to another prophecy. So I believe it leads straight into prophecy number 4, which is, one will ascend to the highest of the Jedi despite the foreboding of those who would serve with him. So Prophecy 2 takes place before the Phantom Menace, and then the Phantom Menace comes when we meet Anakin. So Prophecy 2 led into Prophecy 4. Anakin comes into play. And Anakin is the one that will ascend to the highest of the Jedi ranks, and forebodes those who will serve with him. All the Jedi below him will fear him. He's not a member of the council, officially titled, but he becomes the most powerful, and ultimately destroys them. And they're all scared of him. So, after that, it leads us to... We're still in the prequel stage. It leads us to the 5th prophecy, which is, only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. I take this as Order 66. It'll cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. You can take that many different ways. You can take it as the clones who are just numbers. They don't have names. You could take it to as the Sith cleansing their names, because they strip their names when they become members of the Sith and they take on a new title. So you could take that many different ways. But basically all the Jedi were sacrificed in a way by the one that rose above them, which was Anakin Skywalker. Now, that's during Revenge of the Sith time. So after that, we lead into episode 4, 5, and 6, the original trilogy. There's the prophecies in this book do not really pertain to the original trilogy movies. They do slightly, but I'm just going to briefly touch over them in a broad aspect. Luke Skywalker rises to power. He becomes powerful in the Force due to anger, and he discovers his father is an evil lord, and he trains to become a powerful Jedi to destroy his father. Ultimately realizes that's not the way, turns his father good, and destroys the Sith. Some would argue that Luke Skywalker is the chosen one. I still believe Anakin Skywalker is, because Luke Skywalker was not going to fight in Return of the Jedi. He, no matter how those events played out in the throne room at the end of the movie, Luke Skywalker was done fighting. After he realized the shit that went down with his dad, turning him evil, and he realized he was going down the same path, and he could feel his anger taking over. Even if Vader decided to keep fighting him, he wouldn't have done it. He would have just had made a sacrifice himself and become one with the Force, same as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he had already reached the Jedi peak. Oh, excuse me. And so yeah, I don't believe he's the chosen one. If you believe it, that's fine. But for the direction I'm going here, it makes sense. So let's jump into the sequel trilogy. Now, this is when things get really interesting. So we all know the story of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and the surrounding events told to us in the novels, comic books, word of mouth. We all know. We know the basic outline, right? So let's talk about Prophecy 1 again. Prophecy 1 states that she who will be born to darkness will give birth to darkness. This is referring to Leia. Leia was born to darkness, Darth Vader. She was born during the time that he had already transitioned to Darth Vader. And she will give birth to darkness, Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren was dirty the moment he jumped out of his mama. I'm telling you. It was just meant to be. It's the prophecy foretold it. Now let's move on to a quote from Snoke. A Snoke quote. So it's you all know this. Darkness rises and light to meet it. I warned my young apprentice that as he grew stronger, his equal in the light would rise. That was a terrible Snoke impression. But you get it. He's talking about Kylo. When darkness rises, light to meet it. And that light would be Rey. Rey was the rising light in this story. Now, I think she's the rising light. I don't think it was random. I don't have anything to back up who she is, but I can tell you I think there was a reason. And I think she got all of her powers out of nowhere, because during this time where she got her powers, that must have been when Luke cut himself off from the Force. And all of his powers were then transferred into Rey. And that would make sense why she's so powerful and, doesn't really need to train, and she can just do anything she wants. Not because she's a Mary Sue, all you weirdos out there, you doinks. It's just because she was just given these powers. I mean, if you were given a lot of money, you know, if your best friend gave you $1 million, that makes you rich, right? But you didn't do anything to earn it, so who cares? You're still rich. So she just got all these powers. She's still powerful. She didn't have to earn it or anything. She just has them. So just take it how it is. I think those powers were given to her from Luke Skywalker. And I lost my train of thought here. So, yes. And all this leads back into Prophecy Dose. When the Kyber that is not Kyber shines forth, the time of prophecy will be at hand. So during the rise of the light and the darkness, Kylo Ren, we notice that Kylo Ren has an unstable lightsaber blade. Huh. Interesting, huh? Almost like it's a fake Kyber crystal holding it together? Interesting, because this happened before in Master and Apprentice. And what does Prophecies 2 state when this happens? Prophecy will be at hand, which means we're leading into another prophecy. So, I do believe Kylo Ren is very powerful with the Force, and that's why he's able to make this fake Kyber crystal shine for so long. And I believe this is what brings in more prophecies, and Rey being a new chosen one, the one that is born of no father, similar to Anakin Skywalker. But the main prophecy I think it leads to being at hand is Prophecy 3. When the righteous lose the light, evil once dead shall return. So because a new fake Kyber crystal was used to shine in a lightsaber, it led to this next prophecy of evil rising from the dead. That dead being the Emperor. Sheev Palps. He's back from the dead. And it was because the light lost again. Because Kylo Ren rose from a woman born to darkness, Leia. So it all is like lining up. The planets are aligning. This is exciting, isn't it? I mean, I've cracked the code, guys. That was a really huge pat on the back. I shouldn't do that so much. But, okay. So, Palpatine's back. What does all of this mean? Did you guys realize we left out a prophecy? So if we go all the way back in time, before the sequels, before the original trilogy, before the prequels, before the motherforking prequels, there was a Darth Master known as Darth Plagueis, the most powerful of all the Sith. That's an opinion. But one last prophecy states, "He who learns to conquer death will through his greatest student live again." Darth Plagueis mastered cheating death. He knew how to do it. And he taught it to his apprentice, Sheev Palps. And then he killed his master, Darth Plagueis. And through him, the greatest evil rises again. All that has happened in the movies, in the comics, in the outside lore, even in the Legends books, the Darth Plagueis crap, it all leads up to this last movie, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, to back up this theory that balance of the Force means that all is light and that Force powers are not to be used unless darkness shadows it. is a quote from Palpatine from Revenge of the Sith, which states, "The dark side of the Force is a path to many abilities some would consider to be unnatural." Now, if you remember, what I said from the beginning was the Jedi refer to the ideal state in which the Force exists is in a natural state. So, this is all I'm going to touch on right now because I wanted to do a really short episode. You can send me your thoughts too on Instagram, Twitter, email. I think that's it. Patreon, if you want to go that far. But it's all my social media is at Han Talks First. Instagram is at Han Talks First Podcast. That's where I'm the most active if you want to check me out. And seriously, if you reach out to me, I will respond. That's just how I work here. Thank you so much for listening. It has been a pleasure to return to the interwebs for episode 21. I hope you have a great rest of your Monday. And may the Force be with you.
Do it. So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.